I finally played Mixtape and I have some thoughts. So grab a coffee and welcome to Arcade Coffee. Boys, girls, guys, men's, women, welcome to Arcade Coffee. Come state? How are you? Are you doing well? So, I'm here. I released last week before I had an insane weekend. And I released my piece about the contrast between the audience, the user, and the critic about Mixtape. And we had a discussion in depth about this game and the concept. And I'm gonna say again some other stuff about this game, about that thing, and at the end of the day. But today, after I played the game, I want to talk about the game itself, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into that discussion. So, if you will, let's start this. So, I played the game, and I had a run that was roughly around 3 hours. I started to play it around 9, a quarter past 9, and I finished it was 10 past midnight, something like that. And I played the game carefully, trying to interact with everything I could interact, to explore any possible dialogue. I tested a couple of stuff to understand if the game actually was going on autopilot, or if any input on my hand was necessary or game changing in some way. So I tested a little bit the game, and so roughly 3 hour run, and I gotta be honest, I had a lot of fun with it and I loved it. But there is a discussion here we gotta make. So in case you have no clue what Mixtape is all about, I'm here to give you an introduction basically to the game. The game is inspired by the coming of age kind of movie made by John Hughes. If you've never seen Breakfast Club or stuff like that, you gotta watch them. They are a great deal of fun. So John Hughes, masterclass in directing and telling coming of age stories, and this game is highly inspired by those concepts. We are in the 90s and we follow this girl. She's spending her last day in this very rural small town in the United States before moving to New York and chase her dream of being, if I remember correctly, a music supervisor, something like that. I don't remember the role. I love cinema. I've studied cinema, but in this specific case, I don't remember the role of this figure. But just for the sake of it, it's a person that basically gets called every time you need music, actual music, for a TV show, for a movie, for a documentary or whatever. She's the kind of person that knows as a sort of living and breathing library of music, and you go like, okay, I need music and I wanted something that is going to be impactful for the narrative, stuff like that. Can we work with that? And she's that kind of person. And so she wants to move to New York, talk with this person that works in the field, and have a shot at not going to college, but step into this world of creative about music. And since she's into music, I'm having my coffee. Sorry, it's called Arcade Coffee. That is going to be pretty common having coffee. But anyway, the whole concept is that while she spent the last night with her friends, with her 2 friends in this town, and they gotta go to a party and it's like super bad. They need booze to go to the party and have fun. She has a mixtape made by her, and the mixtape, they are the soundtrack for this adventure, literally in the game and outside of the game. It's very diegetic. Diegetic means that when a song is in the video game or in a movie, it's also there for the audience. So it's there for the audience, but it's there as well unseen during whatever it's happening. So somebody turned on the radio, there is a song by Devo, and you hear the music, they hear the music. That's what diegetic is all about. But anyway, she has this mixtape, and the mixtape, those 25 tracks by Devo, Joy Division, and the Smashing Pumpkins, sorry, they're going to be the soundtrack of this night, and they're gonna be very important to shape what's going on and to give a rhythm to the story. So this is the concept, and the game is basically a story-driven game. It's a game that is purely based on the story, on what happened and what the player do. It's a limited set of interactions. So for example, you are in the bedroom of the main character with your friends, and you have specific object that you have to interact with that are for the story. So they advance the story, and they have these glowing golden lights to tell you that that's the main object. But you have a series of secondary objects that or dialogue that you can have with your friends, and you can approach and do that will be very important. I've done all of them because they give you way more context, and sometimes they give you nice memory, nice context, and I think the way this is done, it's very good. I'm gonna elaborate later, but this is the sort of interaction that you can have. In other cases, you have mini games, like you remember the time that you make out with a boy and you have to play with the stick with the tongues, and you are inside the mouth and you play with the tongues. But of course, it's not like you need to reach an objective. You play a little bit. If you're bored, you just go move forward, and that's it. The mini game is done. Or in other case, you are on a lake and you're trying to make stone skip while the character talk about what's going on. And while you make the stone skip, you have to throw the stone with different degree of strength. You have to make them skip. But of course, if you look at the environment, there is a pile of beer cans empty, and you can try to make them fall. There is an old TV on the side, and you can try to break it. There is an old tire tied to a tree, and you can try to make the stone go through the tire. You have those small objectives that the game doesn't tell you that they are there, but if you're observant, you can do that, and you can have fun. Even as the character in scene, they finish that to talk, you can keep going, or you can just move on as soon as they have done. Or in other cases, you can go on skateboard and you go down the road. You can crouch down to go faster. You gotta drive your character, and you can jump. You can take detour. That's the maximum thing that you can change. There are some jump that are a detour. You can go somewhere else. There are moments where you are flying, literally flying. If you have to go from a point A to a point B, for example, they have to go to this cabin in the middle of the woods. That it's their hanging out spot, and to go there the first time, you just start to go into the forest, and then they start to fly, and you drive them, you make them fly in this current, and they go faster and stuff like that. Or there is a session where they remember a time where they were at a party. One of them was super wasted, and the police came in to bust the party because they were underage and they couldn't drink, so they ran away. They put the wasted one in a shopping cart, and they start to run away with the shopping cart. But of course, like every memories, is very romanticized. So this section where they run away, it's like chasing from a Blues Brothers, from the Blues Brothers, the movie by John Landis. So basically, the chase is insane. You just go down hills, and at some point you are on a highway, like if it was one of those criminal chase on TV and stuff like that. It's very over the top. It's very edgy. It's very fast. It's very funny. Those are the kind of gameplay session that you have. Of course, there is no game over. And to me, these things make much sense. I'm gonna argue why I think the gameplay dynamic inside this kind of video game is done well. Because you have to take in consideration the concept of the game. You can't pick an FPS and argue that there are not enough moments where you can enjoy the environment. It's an FPS. It's not like an action where there are puzzle elements. It's an FPS, a boomer shooter maybe. You can complain about if you don't have dynamic that you would like to have, because you can kind of like to have those stuff. You gotta play another kind of game. So for the kind of game that it is, I think the dynamic of the gameplay, they make sense. Because, for example, In those scenes where you go with the skateboard, stuff like that, there is no game over, as I was saying. And it's a good thing, because in other games, the most annoying thing of narrative experience, it's when they kind of force the idea because they are too scared of having the backlash that this game is having. So, oh, there is not enough gameplay. And so they put moment of game over, and you gotta replay entire section, entire narrative section, and here again the same dialogue and same stuff, just because there is this sort of game over or fail. Here there is not. If you are on a skateboard, I tried. You go on the side, so you smash against a tree or you go on the grass. The movie just gonna be like an old VHS. It's gonna stop. Fast forward, fast backward, you go back, and then you keep going, but it goes back of a couple of seconds, so you can go back on your way and not crash in a car or on the side of the road. That's it. Or many people said, oh, basically you can avoid to touch the gamepad, the game is gonna go by itself. Yes, but it's gonna be very boring. They put element of interaction to make you enjoy the game, because even in the section with the shopping cart, I could have just let the gamepad there on my desk and just not play, but it would have been so boring. But if you play and you try, for example, in this instance, you gotta keep your card straight. If you just engage with the game and you give the game the chance to give you an interaction, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be very easy, very arcade. Nothing. It's not Sekiro. It's not, but it's gonna be very, very, very easy, and kind of funny, because there is a small interaction, and it's gonna the idea there is to make you feel what they are feeling in that moment. It's not to give you a challenge. This is not Leon in a mine shooting to people possessed by Las Plagas. This is not that game. This is a very narrative, straightforward game where the only objective is to give you a great story and to make you feel and to put you in the shoes of the main character. That's it. And that's what the gameplay does, and that's it. Mostly, in part, for example, where you have to interact with objects and characters, I enjoy it. For first thing first, the area is very limited, so it's not like you gotta walk slowly towards a huge place. No, it's a limited space. The stuff are very clearly highlighted, and plus the writing, and we're gonna reach that moment in a second, is so well done that every time that you interact with something, first things first, it's gonna give you more density. It's gonna give you more density to the story. You're gonna have more details about this group of friends, who they are, what they do, and the dialogue are very snappy. They are brief. It's not like you interact with an object and they're the character is gonna talk for a minute, 30 seconds. It's gonna talk for a couple of seconds. It's gonna have a quick line of dialogue of, I don't know, 5, 10 seconds, 15 seconds maximum. It's going to be it is a good rhythm. It's well played. And so you are motivated to have those secondary objective. Okay. So you're in a room of one of those character, you have the main object, but you see that you have some other objective, and those objective, every time you interact with one of the main object, and maybe you have a mini game or whatever, new objective come up. So for example, every time you talk with one of your friends, then when you interact with the main object, you have a new dialogue from your friends, and they tell something different, something more, and it's something funny about them. You know them better and you understand them better, because there are some very good dialogue. The writing is very good. And so this is the level of gameplay that this game has. And I think that it's very unfair towards this kind of experience to say that this game is no gameplay, or anyway the gameplay is poorly done, that you can avoid to interact. It's very silly because it's what it is, the game. It's not like it's a new kind of experience. It's a kind of experience that we know really well because we have other example like this, and it makes sense. It totally makes sense. So I think that as an experience, as a gameplay experience, it's solid. It's very good. It makes sense. Okay, and as I was saying, it's very well done. First things first, on a writing level. The writing in this case, it's so easy to fuck up, but so easy you have no clue. Take something like Forspoken. How dumb is the writing of those dialogues are so infuriatingly bad. Like Dragon Age the Veilguard, like even the Saint Row, when they made the Saint Row remake reboot, it's so annoying. Like, it's annoying. Oh my god, I'm not remembering the game. But they're making them, and Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. It's so infuriatingly annoying. But those dialogue, you know why are good? First things first, dialogue should never tell you straight what the character are thinking or feeling. Good dialogue, they will always have a subtext. So, for example, in this game, there is one of the main character that has a kind of a grudge towards the main character. And this is why basically they plan the trip and they're not doing the trip, and because she's going to New York, the main character that we are playing, and on a superficial level you think that she's complaining, she's being like annoying just because they are not going to the trip. But there is a subtext, and through the game she keeps making kind of passive-aggressive jokes and remark about the fact that she's going to New York and she's leaving them behind, but there is a subtext, and the second you move forward, the subtext makes sense. But also, the writing is so connected to what you do in the game. So there is something about, the more you discover those characters, and the more there are gameplay part, interactive part, that are very connected to what they feel and to what they are picturing in their mind. Because the beautiful part of this game is that the way they talk about youth, the coming of age kind of movie, or the coming of age kind of story, they have to be like this, because it's you kind of romanticizing what you have around. Because when you're a teenager, when you are young, your kind of feeling are super enhanced. Like, everything, it's way more impactful than what it is. And in a way, the game is trying to do this. Every time they go through something, what they perceive and what they see, it's way more enhanced. So if they have to, there is this character that has a kind of soft or baseball kind of talent career, possible career, and in the way the contrast between this character being very able at baseball and at the same time this character being very good at other things, but none of those things is her thing. This contrast, this conflict, it's enhanced by the interactive part with a gameplay that it's very simple, but what happens while you progress with this gameplay, it's very interesting, it's very funny, it's kind of poetic in a way. And this is all part of what Mixtape it is. It's a very over the top, because it's very dreamy, it's very dreamlike way of telling a coming of age story, where the imagination of those kids and their feeling and what they are experiencing, not per se the feeling, but what they are experiencing in their head, and that it's not, vomited to the user with dialogues that just telling what they feel. It's exposed with gameplay plus whatever happens in a very romanticized and in a way that is full of imagination and poetry in the way it happened on a screen. And it's very good. This is how things should be written, but in a video game should be given to the user as gameplay, as interaction. And this video game, in order to give interaction that is well mixed with the story, goes on the extra mile, because it does a very good job in creating situation that can be translated into gameplay. Because usually when you have those kind of narrative video game, the worst things that usually happens, the things that I hate, is that what happens is that you have section of gameplay that are very like naive and annoying, and it's just there to give you an interaction. Like, for example, a character is in his room, he needs to pack a couple of bags, and so the gameplay is that a mini game where you need to put a bag inside another bag, and you go like, okay, you're just giving me a little bit of gameplay but with no emotional connection. In this game, instead, every part of gameplay has an emotional connection or a narrative connection to what's going on, and that makes the game very interesting to play. Very you are very involved in what's going on, because there is this nice connection, and the concept of the minigame and the gameplay, it's always connected to an emotional part or a narrative part of the story, and that's amazing. Plus, the thing that this game does very well is that it has the best quality of cinema. So the idea that the main character is very into music, like looks like an Edgar Wright kind of character, you know, like Baby Driver or stuff like that. She's very into music. It's part of who she is. She doesn't fit in the school and with the people around her, and she surrounded herself with two people that are kind of like that, because they are cool in their own way, because they both have a side of them that we're gonna find out that it's very interesting, and it's very different from anyone else. And the thing is that since she has this connection with music, we have a perfect excuse. Even the idea of her building a mix for a last night, we are building a perfect narrative excuse to have in the game this music, because in the game there is Iggy Pop, Devo, Joy Division, and that music, it's very truthfully part of that cultural heritage. Because who grew up in the 90s? I was born in 1987, so I didn't per se grew up as a teenager in the 90s. I grew up as a teenager at the end of the 90s, and I mean in the late 90s, beginning of 2000, I was a teenager. Okay, so I'm not in the same position as those characters, but I understand the cultural reference, and I understand as well that the music they are talking about, it's the perfect music for whoever was a teenager in the 90s. And music, it's a perfect time machine, because it connects you directly to a moment in time. Okay, because if today somebody that is a teenager today is in 20 years is gonna make a game like this or a movie like this, and he wants to bring the audience back in time, is gonna put a song by, I don't know, Dojo, end of beginnings, I'm back to Chicago, and everybody's gonna think, oh god, it was like that summer, whatever, and it's gonna travel back in time. But this concept is so honest, because you can understand that those guys, those people are very connected to that music, and the writing, the setup, it's so honest that you can't kind of not be charmed by the story and what it's trying to convey, because it's very honest. Doesn't matter if you are not going to be connected to that moment in time, but if you are open to receive a coming of age story, you're gonna easily connect with it because it's very well written, and the honesty of the story, it's there. But again, as I was saying, the concept is very solid because everything makes sense. The idea that they're using that specific music makes sense. The character they build around the story in order to convey this makes sense, because the story, it's been written with this idea in mind, and it's very well conceived, and I think they did a very good job. And the other thing is that they also avoided to be cliche, because, for example, I'll make you an example, don't get mad. But Stranger Things, it's very cliche. All the music that they use from the 80s, it's basically the hit of the 80s. In this game, Devo were popular, but Devo were not like the mainstream kind of things. Joy Division as well. Iggy Pop was very famous, but it wasn't like Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop is a legend, but it's not the same as, I don't know, back in the 80s, Duran Duran and those kind of music that was very mainstream. It was another kind of thing. It was a thing for kids that were more outsider, underdog. I think this mixtape has the same quality of a movie by James Gunn, that you can understand that the music is highly connected to what the story is telling. And that's why they couldn't make a streamer mode, because the music, it's literally part of the narrative. I mean, there are moments where basically the music, every one of the 25 song put in mixtape, it's like a sort of a chapter, because it's how she's managing this last night with her friends, or last day with her friends. And every second she goes like, okay, now we listen to, she break the fourth wall, she look at the audience and she said, okay, now we're listening this song by Devo, it was released in 1970 whatever, and da 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 da, and she says that, and it's very well made. It makes sense. It's not something that you go like, this is just to get the kind of a mainstream audience, and just like to, it's something that nobody else does out there, and it's very well made. Even, as I said before, the way it's connected to the concept itself, even when we come to the gameplay. Then the idea that you said, okay, I'll put the pad down and the game goes by itself, that's your choice, because I'm gonna spoil this, but if you do the same with many kind of Telltale games, it's kind of the same. The only difference between this game and a Telltale games that were so celebrated, or like Dispatch, the only thing is that those games, sometimes they have elements that I don't agree with, because I think they are very disingenuous, let's say like this, where they kind of force a sort of gameplay action, because otherwise, in the same way, the gameplay would be just put the pad on the desk and that's it. So, for example, here and there in the Telltale games, there are like quick time event or stuff like that. There are just elements to give you the actual perception that you are actually impacting in an action way, or you're doing something dynamic in the game. But it's actually not. It's not very different from what happened in Mixtape. Even in Dispatch, many quick time events in the story, sometimes they don't have a real consequence. So, for example, the main character just take a punch, but then moves on with the same action that he was doing before. And the part of gameplay that we want to discuss in Dispatch, what is that part where you just send an hero here or there? It's it's gameplay, yes, as much as the one in Mixtape, but it's not that it's more elevated. If we want to make that kind of discussion, it's very naive to think that that is a more complex gameplay. It's an illusion of gameplay. Sometimes I was in love with The Walking Dead by Telltale when it got released, but then I started to test it and replay it, and I realized how little agency actually handled the story. It's none of these games, Mixtape, any Telltale game ever made, or Dispatch itself, none of them. It's like Detroit Become Human. And you know what? Because they are very different concept. And this is the thing. Mixtape, it's a very different concept as much as the Telltale game from a Detroit Become Human. From, I don't know, Sherlock Holmes Crime and Punishment, where you have a sort more adventure, point and click kind of concept. And so you have to do detective stuff, solve puzzle. They are all narrative games, but they are looking at different concept and a different way to give to the user an experience. So this is a niche of a niche of a niche. Mixtape, as I said in the content before, it's a very niche game as a concept, and I think that in relation of what it is, it's very well made. I think they have done a very good job. It's very solid, and because the thing that it was supposed to pop first thing first was the writing, and the writing is amazing, as I said before. For all the things that I said before, it's very I played for 3 hours and I was totally invested in the thing beginning to an end, because it's easy to make you feel invested in what's going on, because the characters are never obnoxious, the dialogue are never obnoxious, the music is amazing. And I understand that there is a generation that doesn't want to play this game because they don't relate to that moment in time, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe there are people that they don't want to play this kind of game, but the problem is with the people, not with the game. Not because they are wrong, but because you have to understand what you want to play and what are your tastes. But you can't trash the game because it doesn't align with your taste. You should say, it's not my cup of coffee. Because I say cup of coffee and not cup of tea, because I don't like tea. But anyway, you should say that. But the game, if you look at the game, it's well made for what it is. I'll make you a more clearer example. I don't like racing games because I don't care about cars and engine, and I don't care. I really don't care. I like football games. That's my thing. I love football, but I don't like cars games, racing games. And so if they release Forza, like they released the new Forza recently, apparently it's a masterpiece, I'm never going to buy the game. I don't care if it's a 10 out of 10, like for many people was this game. I don't care. I don't like that genre. I will never connect with it. But of course, if someone shows me Forza, like in the past someone showed me Gran Turismo, I even play with those kind of games. Of course, before understanding that I don't love those kind of games, I played a good deal of time with them. And then I was like, it's not my thing. I bought those games, I spent hours, and I was like, I get bored. Not because they're bad, but because it's not my thing. And so, if someone shows me the new Forza, I go like, dude, it's insane. It's very well made. I can understand till a certain degree, of course, because since I don't love cars and racing, there are some stuff that I can't understand because I don't have all the knowledge to judge at a complete and perfect scale the focus and what the game can achieve or not. But on a technical general level, I can see the game. I can say, dude, it's impressive. It's very well done. I can understand it. I can say that because I have brain power to do that like anybody else. And this is the same case. I think the people that got very upset about the 10 out of 10, this is not a discrepancy, again, as I said in the previous content, it's not a discrepancy between the critics and the audience. There's 86 Metacritic score by 34 critic, and this 6.3 by 753 user, it's not a discrepancy because the game critic is cooked and they have no clue. The problem here is that people went into this game just because critic says it's a 10 out of 10. And my problem with score for video game is that 10 out of 10 has so many nuances that create more problem than solution. And the first problem is that 10 out of 10 doesn't mean that the game is universally a masterpiece. The problem is that it's a 10 out of 10 or any sort of very enthusiastic kind of masterpiece, kind of votes or system, whatever. It's in context of the kind of game that Mixtape it is. This is a niche of a niche. Because this is not a story-driven game. This is not Uncharted. This is not The Last of Us. This is not Alan Wake 2. This is not, I don't know, Saros, Pragmata, whatever. Even Mouse PI for Art. This is not that kind of game, okay? It's a narrative game, but it's not, I don't know, as I said before, Sherlock Holmes Crime and Punishment, or a game like, we can say very narrative, What Remains of Edith Finch, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Dear Esther, or there are so many horror games on the same line where you have a strong narrative, where you are very invested, but at the same time there are puzzles, there are moments where maybe you need to hide, you do stealth or stuff like that. This is not that. This is another niche. And you go like, okay, it's maybe something like Heavy Rain or Detroit Become Human. No, it's not even that. Where you have multiple choices and an insane amount of consequences. No. It's something more like a Telltale kind of game, where there is a strong narrative, you can't change it. In Telltale, as I said before, oh, but you can change stuff in Telltale games. If the story has to go with a character that has to die, that character is going to die. You're gonna have very small, not that important kind of changes. It's an illusion of change. But anyway, the main thing is gonna be untouched. In Telltale, they choose to include that, and they choose to include quick time event or stuff like that. They have a little bit of a shade that it's giving you the impression that it's a little bit complex and that there is more gameplay and agency by the player, but it's not actually like that. You play a Telltale game with Batman, you can fail a part that is action and you're gonna try again, but that doesn't mean that it's like Batman Arkham. It's not like that this is a huge investment in gameplay. It's very naive, and sometimes, as I said before, to me, my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, it's very annoying because I gotta replay the same part and it's so annoying. And in a game that is so heavily based on narrative, it's so annoying. This Mixtape, it's kind of in that realm. It's a niche of a niche of a niche. And as a niche of a niche of a niche, like I remember To the Moon. I don't recall if many of you, I don't know if many of you recalls To the Moon. It's kind of in that niche. And speaking of that niche, if you like it or not, if it's your cup of coffee or not, in that niche, it's a great game. But you gotta love that kind of experience, because I think it's very arrogant to say, oh, this is not a video game. Because some people, I mean, some people go to, I don't know, strategic Age of Empire, that kind of stuff. And some people can say, oh, but the gameplay is very, I mean, it's not like Sekiro, so there is no gameplay. There is gameplay. It's a usually, I'm not comparing Mixtape to that game. I'm just saying that you can take a kind of a genre that doesn't sit well with your concept of fun in a video game and decide that it's not gameplay. It's very annoying and obnoxious. This game, the very enthusiastic review are based, that 10 out of 10 is based on what this game is. And makes sense. But at the same time, that's why I hate votes, because people see the votes and they think that, okay, masterpiece, I must play it. No, doesn't say that. It's like the same problem that we had when the critics came out saying, oh, this is my GOTY. You can't, because it's May. And there are still a lot of months to go with a lot of great game to be released. So you can't say this is your GOTY. You can say this is a GOTY contender. And I believe that, speaking of narrative, can be a strong contender. I don't know if it's going to win, but it's a strong contender because it's very well written and it's very well executed, the narrative in the context of a video game. Okay? And the design is fantastic. I love the animation. I love the way the world is built. It's kind of very, very smart in a way, because I don't get why we are at the end of kind of the year that they want to go on a summer trip, but at the same time it's fall. I don't get what it's very smart and I don't know. There are some part that looks like it's fall, maybe our memory, stuff like that. Some part are in the present, but it's still kind of fall, and some part are not. I don't know. Sometimes I'm lost. Sometimes I go like, okay, you wanted to play it very smart. Speaking of design, but design is incredible. It's very well made. I love it, the way they decided to, as I said, the mise-en-scene, if we can call it like that, of some part of narrative with the gameplay are very well designed and developed and are amazing. So maybe on the design part of the aesthetic, they can win something. But at the same time, I understand that statement, it's very misleading for the audience. And it's both a problem with the critics as much as it's a problem with the audience. And it's a problem with the critics because you should be more analytical. I'm not a critic. I'm just a guy talking about video games. But what I understand is that if I was willing to go into video game critic, I do that with cinema because I study it and stuff like that. But anyway, my feeling for a piece of art or a piece of entertainment, they should go as far as a certain point. But when I reach the point where I have to be more analytical and talk about the value of a piece of art of entertainment, I should be a little bit more analytical and a little bit more cold, because Mixtape, as for all the stuff that I said before, it's designed to push on the nostalgia of all the people that were teenagers in the 90s and even on millennials. I'm a millennials. I wasn't a teenager in the 90s. I was a teenager, as I said before, end of the 90s, beginning of 2000. So my experience is a little bit pushed toward something else. But I understand the feeling. And I understand because I understand the vibes perfectly, because I have all the cultural reference that are for my generation as well. And I really enjoy the whole thing. But at the end of the day, I can't judge this Mixtape. I can't judge Mixtape just with feelings. At the end of the day, I gotta look at Mixtape and then I gotta say, this is a contender for other achievement. But as a video game, out there, they have been released, or they are going to be released video game in the next 7 months that are way more complex than Mixtape. That is something, a line of thoughts that I should get behind. What I mean is that, as I said before, you can't say this concept is more valuable than another concept. But the things that you can say as a critic, a video game critic, if I have to make an evaluation on a software, on a video game, Mixtape has a degree of difficulty in the way it's produced. So the writing, it's very difficult to achieve. The balance between the narrative and the gameplay, meaning the balance between how I'm telling the story and how I'm giving interaction to the audience, it's very difficult to achieve. I think they have done a great job, as I exposed before, as I said before, as I explained myself before. I think they've done a great job. It's the evaluation that I gotta do. The artistic endeavor, it's very difficult to achieve. They've done a very good job. The playlist, the music, the whole thing, it's very difficult to achieve, and they've done a very good job. But then I look at the whole year 2026 at some point, or even now, if I start to think about, okay, they released Resident Evil, they released Pragmata, Crimson Desert, they released, I don't know, they're going to release First Light, they will release, apparently at some point, GTA 6, they will release Gothic Remake, they will release Fable, they will release so many games. And as a critic, I should understand that the challenges and the complexity of a game, for example, let's take Fable, it's way more higher. It's the challenge and the difficulty in developing that game. It's way more complex than Mixtape, because the way they need to convey the story according to gameplay, the balance of the gameplay, the feature of gameplay, and at the end of the day, as if I have to choose a GOTY, a game of the year, I have to put everything in perspective, and I can say, look, Mixtape, I will love this game for ages. Every day I leave my house and I have in my headphones the soundtrack of Mixtape blasting. I love it, absolutely. And I will remark the same thing that I said before, the writing and whatever. But at the end of the day, I look at experiences so complex, like Crimson Desert or Fable, whatever it is, and I realize that those games deserve a spot in the GOTY more than Mixtape, because they are way more complex. And the kind of achievement that they are aiming to reach, if they succeed in what they propose, it's way more difficult and challenging to achieve than what Mixtape is trying to, and successfully has managed to reach as a game, as a piece of entertainment or art. I gotta make that discussion. And I think that every critic that came out saying this is a GOTY, this is my GOTY, I love it, I'll allow him his feeling to take over. And the problem is that, and now we come at the problem with the audience, that the audience, every time they hear GOTY, right away, wrongfully, I think, they think about, oh, this is a universal kind of experience, I gotta play it, I'm gonna have fun, because this is a GOTY. There is no way in hell that I can't have fun with this, because they say it's GOTY-worthy. But doesn't work like that. As I said before, they release Forza, best driving game ever. Let's make a weird scenario. They give the GOTY to Forza. I'm not gonna play it. I don't like racing. I don't care it's the best game ever. I don't like racing. As soon as someone starts to talk about engine and power, I start to snore. loudly because it's not my thing. As much as, I don't know, tomorrow they release an insane game-changing experience with a top-down view, kind of retro Age of Empire kind of game, but in a way that is designed that is insane, that it has so many features and stuff like that. It's the GOTY because the achievement, technically speaking, is so insane that it's a GOTY. I don't think I'm gonna play it. Not because I dislike that kind of games, but because I don't have the time. It's not my jam per se. It used to be when I was a kid, but I don't enjoy that experience anymore. Some people, they don't like JRPG. And when Claire Obscur won the GOTY, social media were full of posts like, I'm gonna play this and it better be amazing, because if it's not a GOTY, if it's not amazing, it's gonna be another game that will receive the GOTY for no reason, the woke agenda and stuff like that. Because everything is woke. Even this game, if you go on Metacritic, it's a woke game. There's nothing woke in it. There is nothing woke in it. It's a coming of age story. There's nothing woke. In the 90s, there is nothing woke in this game. But it's everywhere. You go, like, when you don't like, this cappuccino is very woke, I don't like it. People now think like that. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, all those people that just bought or start to play Claire Obscur just because it won the GOTY made a mistake. Because it can be the GOTY as much as you like, but if you don't like a JRPG, you don't like a JRPG. If you don't like that kind of experience, there is a chance that maybe I'm not a big fan of JRPG. The game is a JRPG like. I enjoy it. I like it. It was very good. And I recognize every technical achievement and I see many flaws in it, but I recognize that the value of the game. But if I had skipped it, it wouldn't be a drama, because I understand that if you don't like the genre, if it's not your bread and butter, maybe you're not gonna like it. This game is the same. Can be GOTY-worthy for a lot of critics, but maybe they're the kind of, since they are critics, I assume that they play a lot of video game, and maybe they have every critic has a genre prefer compared to another, but most likely, even taking that in consideration, they play a fair share of different genre and they enjoy different genre. A fair share, not all of them. And so they have their own opinion as critic, and it's fine and makes sense for what they are and what they do. But you as an audience, you have to understand that that's not your jam, that's not your cup of coffee. Don't drink it. Don't play with it. It's a narrative. Don't play with it. Period. It's not for you. Doesn't mean that even if it took a 10 out of 10, even if it's if they make accolade trailer with a lot of sensational opinion and reaction, doesn't matter. You gotta focus on what you like, and if you don't like the genre, don't play it. But anyway, I think that those are the major mistakes around this discussion. But I believe, as I said before, that the game is pretty solid and I enjoy it and it's fun, and I think it's kind of I dig it. I think it was very fun. I played on Game Pass and it was to me one time only kind of experience. I mean, I played it, I had fun, I tested a couple of stuff, I tried to take different route. Anyway, what changes that you skate in a different place. That's it, in case you try to take a different route. But in the few instances where this happened, but end of the day, it's not a game that I'm gonna replay over and over again. In a way, as much as Dispatch, you can say this could have been a movie. 100%. Or a short series, 3-episode short series. Or a movie, just a movie, animated movie. Yes, totally. As much as Dispatch. Because Dispatch could have been a nice animated TV show and would have been as enjoyable as much as the game. Because the part of gameplay, as I said before, it's not it's not that there is a great deal of gameplay in this patch. This is the deal. It's a niche of a niche of a niche. The only reason why we have this game and not a TV show or a short series or a series event is that basically maybe they will never get done. I mean, if those developers were going to Netflix or whatever, or a producer to try to get this made, maybe we'll never see the light of day. In this way, they can talk to an audience of gamer that like this kind of chill experience and give them a great deal of fun. The same for this patch. I believe that this patch, even if it could have been a TV show, because it is a TV show with a very basic interaction in it, it's for a wide range of audience that can have fun with that kind of a chill experience. I believe that the difference between Mixtape and this patch, you know what it is that Mixtape, it's a coming of age that takes place in the 90s, that has a specific vibe, a specific kind of music, and it's going to be appealing for a specific kind of audience. Okay? And it can be appealing for a younger audience as well. I believe that somewhere there is a 20 year something or a 19 years old that maybe it has a peculiar emotional intelligence and is open to receive a coming of age kind of story, and it will be able to relate to those characters and will be able even to dream about those characters, because the thing is that new generation, they won't have, and they are not having the same kind of youth that we had as millennials and people that were teenagers in the 90s, that they're not having the same experience. They're completely having a completely different experience. This is something that in cinema and TV always happened. It happened with Stranger Things. I remember when Stranger Things came out, I remember people that were 10 years younger than me, like 15 and 16, were like, oh yeah, I remember those times. No, you don't. You are 16 now. In the 80s, or when we were close to stuff that were similar to the 80s, you were not even born. You were not even an idea in your parents' mind. There is no way that you have any experience that can make you relate to those times. Nothing. There is no way. I'm from 87. I can relate with many things because still a little bit of the culture from the 80s, I had a little bit of, I absorb it a little bit through TV and stuff like that. But also the way my youth, when I was a kid, I was very like the kid in Stranger Things. I could go out and I was like, Mom, I'm going to Marco's house, and she was like, okay, have fun. And I was going by myself when I was a kid with my little bike, and I was going, and I was staying in my neighborhood outside because it was very safe, and I was all the time outside, and it was very similar. And so I can relate with some stuff, with not all of them. But then there was a generation that was completely in denial, and because it was very fascinated by Stranger Things, was kind of fantasizing about being in that space. And I think in Mixtape something like that can happen as well. But mostly this game is for millennials who like chill experience, and it's a big niche, because every year after the Summer Game Fest there is the Wholesome Direct, if I remember correctly, where they talk about chill games. And those are very chill, simple video games for people who like chill experience. And the gameplay, it's very easy, very straightforward. It's nothing like the mainstream of gaming like to experience. But it's fine. It's another audience. It's not for everyone. Okay? Instead, this patch, compared to Mixtape, the only difference is that the kind of experience that you're living in this patch, it's very mainstream. Invincible, The Boys, those kind of stories where we live in a world where there are superheroes, but it's more, let's say, grounded. It's less childish like Marvel stories or DC stories. It's a little bit more grounded in a way that you have more gritty stories or stuff like that. It's very popular now. It's the main thing in pop culture. It's one of the main thing in pop culture. And so it's very easy to receive. And there is an audience that maybe dislike this mixtape as a game that has no gameplay, that then instead is able to forgive every flaws by design, because it's not like it's something bad. It's by design that it's made like this, that a game like Despise has, just because they like the setting and everything way more than what they like in Mixtape. That's it. They just dig the experience because it's a story and a feeling and the vibe that they like way more. That's the only difference. Because then if you look at it on a very cynical and technical level, Despise has very similar weakness to Mixtape. And that's it. And I think that we should take that in consideration. So those are my thoughts about Mixtape. I believe the game is great. I believe that if you are open to this kind of experience, you should play it. If you like chill games, if you like games that are mostly story based, if you like music, that's another good indicator. If you really like the 90s, if you like coming of age, even as a genre, you should play Mixtape. If you want something that is more action driven, if you want something that has way more interaction, if you want something that has a completely different vibe, speaking of storytelling and stuff like that, don't play Mixtape, because it's not for you. But this should be something that you should as a user tell yourself when you approach a game. It's supposed to be a kind of discussion that you have yourself by default, but apparently you gotta say it because people will see 10 out of 10. I gotta play, it's a masterpiece, I have to play. No, if you don't like the genre, don't play it, for the love of God. Same thing, it's GOTY-worthy, and I don't agree. I played it, I like it, but if it's say GOTY-worthy, you still have what kind of genre is, what kind of game is. It's something that I love, it's something that I can like. If the genre itself, it's not something that I love and that I like, don't. Because it's not like the trailer for Mixtape, the multiple trailer release, they were like misleading. It's not like in the trailer we seen I don't know, people shooting, running and climbing. It wasn't like Uncharted. You go like, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome. No. You could clearly see what kind of game it was. Why act surprised? Try to respond to external input from the world. Try, if you can. And so you realize what Mixtape is. But anyway, ragazzi, I hope you enjoy my opinion on Mixtape. I hope you enjoy the discussion. It's a continuation of the previous discussion, but in case you missed that podcast, you have here the whole thing. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe, share the podcast, vote the podcast, leave a comment share with me your thoughts about Mixtape. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what if you like it, if you didn't like it. Of course, if you have to leave a comment, please try to make sense. No, right. It's a work game. That's not a comment. That's not even a thought. That's just being a bot. But in a body of a human, but you're not thinking, you're just reacting to, I don't know, whatever psychological issue you should explore with a therapist. That's what I think. But anyway, or whatever. But anyway, bye bye. Ciao.